So this video ended up in my recommendations, my YouTube recommendations. I was like viewing this on my phone. That's why it looks like this. So keep in mind, this video was being made in the USA, like in the American context. So it's not referring to Singapore. It's just that as I watch this video and as I read the comments section, it kind of reminds me how, children in Singapore, some of them eventually get quote unquote traumatized because they have to learn their quote unquote mother tongue languages. And just to keep it accurate, mother tongue refers to the language you speak at home. It could be English, it could be Chinese, Malay, Tamil in the Singapore context for most people, but it is the language that you speak at home, like your parents speak, and not a kind of situation whereby, oh, you are ethnic Chinese, so therefore your mother tongue is Chinese, you are ethnic Malay, and therefore Bahasa Melayu is your mother tongue. It's not any of that. Mother tongue just refers to the language you speak at home. It's just that, I don't know, for simplicity's sake, Singapore's education system decides to call the non-English languages the quote-unquote mother tongue languages. Again, just for convenience and simplicity. Although, yeah, we need to truly understand what mother tongue really means. Now, I do understand the fact that Singaporeans typically, for anybody that sounds westernized to them, they typically don't take their opinions or whatever they have to say really seriously. I do understand that, but again, this is based on my own observations. So I'm just going to use this comment for reference. The reason why I liked this comment is because I like the fact that they accurately identified the inaccuracies with the term whitewashing. Because even a lot of Singaporeans, they tend to misuse this phrase. And only because of that reason. And then this comment went on to say, most of my white friends had immigrant parents from East Europe and almost all of them could speak the Eastern Europe languages fluently, like Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, Bulgarian, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was also others like Estonian, Latvian, Macedonian. I cannot remember if like every single one of them is considered Eastern Europe, but it's around that region. However, some couldn't speak those languages simply because they were too Americanized. It's not whitewashed, but they are just saying too Americanized or westernized and didn't care to connect or rediscover their roots, basically their heritage, to have a better understanding of themselves or their family, because they didn't really need to. But like their Asian counterparts, it usually bit them in the butt when they got older and wanted to travel and reconnect with family or make friends abroad, like outside of the US. It's great to be American, Canadian, or whatever Western multi-ethnic nationality you were born/raised in, but to be so westernized that you're out of touch with your heritage is like losing a piece of your identity or being incomplete. Now, even though I like this comment, like I gave a like to this comment, there is this one part of this comment that I respectfully disagree with. And I will explain why. This is the entire purpose of the video. I'm going to be explaining why I disagree with this part. So why am I drawing this? You guys know what is sayoku and uyoku, right? Well, Japan, they tend to be like around here-ish. Singapore is like up here. For me, I've did the test multiple times already, and every single time it returned me with around here. Like, I am considered a libertarian that's very, very slightly left-leaning, but more towards centrist as opposed to like, oh, actually left wing. And most of the internet, like the demographics, obviously it's quite diverse, but usually most of the internet would lie around, let's say, this area. So I'm different from them when it comes to like whatever I believe in, kind of. And usually people who make these statements, they tend to, not all of them, but they tend to fall under this range. Okay, this isn't really that important in like the grand scheme of things, but I'm just trying to more accurately, okay, maybe it's not the most accurate, but I'm just trying to accurately depict usually who are the people that would make these statements. It's not to discriminate against them, but I'm just trying to identify like where exactly these sentiments come from. Like, are you more traditionalist? Are you more conservative? Or are you more like liberal or something along those lines? I'm just throwing words out here really loosely, but you kind of get what I mean. So now, the words that I've written in pink, hopefully you're able to see it. This is basically my opinion. It's to let people have their own space at their own pace as well. Like you give people their own space to discover their ancestry / heritage. But the most important thing is that you do not enforce it on individuals. So generally you could take it as like, okay, as parents, y'all speak like a non-English language, right? And you want to be able to impart this kind of like language / tradition / culture onto your kids in hopes that they would probably appreciate them, right? So if you just want to introduce this part of yourself to your kids, like, you know, hopefully they carry on the traditions, blah, blah, blah. If it's just like sharing, it's completely fine. But I don't want it to turn into like a forcing session or anything. Now, realistically, most people don't force it upon their kids, right? Hopefully. And there is a really, really simple reason for that. The more you force them to commit to or do something that they don't like, it would actually end up creating the opposite effect. They would actually end up hating it more than embracing it. Not every single thing in life could be like resolved with quote unquote tough love, if you know what tough love actually means. Because it's important to understand that even though there are quite a handful of people that they didn't really embrace their quote unquote mother tongue, even though it's technically not their mother tongue, it's more of like the other languages other than English that their parents know how to speak. More of that, to be honest. Yes, there might be a handful of people who grew up detesting those languages but regretted it later in life due to like various reasons, like cannot connect with people, cannot communicate with people, many different reasons. But this doesn't change the fact that they do not represent everybody. There are people who are genuinely just not interested in, connecting with your heritage, identity being incomplete. They don't really care about all these sorts of things, and that is completely okay. Like, nobody should be forced to upkeep a tradition, culture, or a way of life, like a lifestyle that they are clearly not comfortable with. But realistically, when people make these comments, it's often a reaction to the quote-unquote kids nowadays being whitewashed to the point whereby nobody is really interested in, keeping the heritage and tradition alive. It's more of like just a response to that, as opposed to saying, oh, you are of a certain race and ethnicity, this is what you must do. That it's like you must preserve this part of your heritage. It's like your duty or something along those lines. So again, to keep it short, it's more of like this is just a reaction to the current trend of people becoming more westernized, as opposed to actually trying to enforce it like in a dictatorial way to every single individual that happens to be from a certain race or ethnicity. Just to make it clear. And it all comes with this simple fact. Okay, this applies whether you are like pure a certain race, a certain ethnicity, or you have a mixed heritage. Whether mixed heritage refers to, oh, you're a mix of like different European ethnicities, or you are like, let's say, half white, half Asian, half black, half Asian, or let's say half Indian, half Korean, half Indian, half Chinese. It doesn't matter, but the bottom line is that it's kind of assigned to you at birth. You cannot choose your like which family you are born into, and therefore you cannot choose your race and ethnicity. And because of this simple fact, it is completely unfair to impose it on everybody that happens to be part of a certain race or ethnicity. Doesn't matter if they are like full a certain ethnicity or race or half. Doesn't matter. But it's unfair to impose it on everybody to like, upkeep the traditions and heritage alive. Keep this in mind because I will be talking about this a little bit later. And usually such arguments are made because there are people who claim that, oh, it's not important to keep the heritage and traditions alive because every single human being originated from Africa. Yeah, usually it's a response to like comments like these, but I'm just gonna very briefly talk about the importance of upkeeping heritage and tradition according to society. So, because heritage and tradition also links to a lot of other aspects in daily life, such as food culture, or even stuff such as art, and then art also influences architecture as well. So it's not just about like heritage or tradition. It also links to like a lot of other areas and aspects of life as well. But again, having said that, it is completely unfair to impose it on everybody, even after you have unpacked all the benefits of like keeping this or that alive. Because I truly believe in the fact that you shouldn't try to convince or force somebody that is clearly disinterested to become interested in something. I know some cases there are people who used to be disinterested in this context but later become interested. Okay, I do understand, but and also, do you guys realize that this would actually help you guys who are taking general paper in junior college in Singapore, right? Like the things that I'm talking about, you could put it in your paper 1. This is something that a lot of schools tend to not do well with it. They just dump you some lecture notes and then they just yap without actually trying to make it relatable to everybody, And the one thing is that, okay, since art is usually mentioned, right? The simple argument as to why, these should be upkept is that if we didn't have all of these, then like instead of the world being full of diversity and diversified, every single, let's say, place on earth, even all the food that you consume, all the buildings, all the roads, all the infrastructure, architecture, every single thing would be unfortunately standardized, the same. Everybody speaks the same language, no variance, boring. I do understand that like some what's that term? It's like some monocultural societies exist, but usually they're kind of like, not really that connected to the outside world. But again, in general, it's more of like, if we didn't have all these things, then the world would just basically become very boring and standardized. Everybody eats the same food, everybody lives in the same kind of place. You travel from like North America to Southeast Asia, everything would just look the same. Likewise, if you're traveling from South America to Japan, Hokkaido, Siberia, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere will be the same. But at the same time, even after saying all this, there is one thing that I respectfully disagree with the quote-unquote woke people, and it's this sentence. Okay, sorry, let's do that again. It's this sentence. Whilst I understand the feeling of losing your identity or being incomplete, again, it goes back to the same fact that you cannot choose your race or ethnicity because it's just assigned to you at birth. And it's also like, even if you are like, even if you lost your identity, sort of, or if you are incomplete in this aspect of you as a person, it doesn't necessarily mean that, if you don't fulfill this aspect of yourself, then you are automatically a loser in life or anything. Because, success in life is not just about like, making lots of money, even though some people want that. It's also like happiness, self-fulfillment, or whether you made other people happy as well. It's like life is more than just this. This is one aspect of it, but life is more than this. And even if let's say you don't care about this, it is completely fine, like I've explained. And also realistically, even though it sounds like it, nobody realistically is expecting every single person to find out more about their identity or actually embrace said culture, right? Like, it's more of like, just because you lack this aspect of you, that doesn't necessarily mean you are not a good person. Like, it's two completely different things. It's like, there are people that are really, really cultured, but deep down they are bad people. And conversely, there are also people that they lack all of these, but they are still overall a good person. And vice versa. Obviously, there will also be people that are lacking in this and lacking in morals, or they are full of culture and they are a good person at the same time. Obviously, the internet, right? They want people to be full of culture and be a good person as well. That's kind of like what the internet kind of like craves. They tend to like judge people based on these sorts of like things, and then they determine, you are a wholesome human being, blah 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 blah. The internet, they're kind of like, they kind of put you in a mold sometimes, and that's why I'm here to like speak out against the mold. Yeah, but again, just saying, you may not have this, but you can still be a good person. You can still live a very fulfilling life, even though you don't have all of these. And just because you are lacking in the kind of predetermined culture that society kind of dictates for you, okay, it's more of like, you are born as like ethnic this or ethnic that or a certain race, and therefore you're like expected by society to upkeep this or that, right? The one thing that I don't like about this is that society kind of like dictates the kind of culture or lifestyle that you supposedly have to follow based on things that you have no control of, or like it's predetermined, like basically how you are born as, everything is like predetermined, right? So it's more of like, I don't like this aspect of the internet. I don't like this aspect of society saying that you are this race. I don't care if you're half, you're full, or what. If you have this race, you are this ethnicity. You have to upkeep this tradition. This is one thing that I really don't like, and I hope people actually don't go to this extent of forcing people or forcing their kids, or like threatening, or like threatening to call them failures at life if they don't meet certain expectations, right? Like if they are not this culture enough. Having said that, even if it's not like the one that is predetermined or like dictated by society, it doesn't stop people from learning or actually trying to embrace other people's culture. So even if, quote unquote, you lose your predetermined own culture, it's completely fine. There's nothing stopping you from trying to respect, learn, and embrace other cultures as well, and eventually even adopt it as your own. It's something like, okay, by race or by ethnicity, you might. I'm sorry, sometimes I don't really get the distinction between race and ethnicity. I'm bad at it, but you kind of get my point, right? Let's say you are white or you are black by race, but you end up being assimilated. You just end up taking, I'm just saying things very loosely, you end up taking on another culture from another race and ethnicity, and overall, I mean, eventually over time, it becomes that, like, that basically becomes your identity, and you feel complete because of that, even though you and people from the other culture, like, you're not the same in terms of ethnicity, but you really take time to learn and embrace the culture, and now it's your own identity. I feel like this should be celebrated as well. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, you're from America and you end up embracing other cultures. No, could be also the other way around as well. Like, you could be Asian, just broadly, you could be Asian, but you end up embracing black culture or white culture. Again, you need to be a bit more sensitive when saying these sorts of things, but I'm just giving you an example. It's like, you may have lost your Asian roots or Asian heritage, but you end up embracing like an authentic version of yourself through, okay, I know I shouldn't really say that, but it's like you end up embracing another culture, and that culture becomes your own identity, quote unquote new identity. You're respectful and mindful of like traditions and everything. That should be celebrated as well. Again, the reason why people say like, oh, whitewash, Americanize, Westernize, the reason why people even say this in the first place is because they feel like it's just a reaction to the fact that too many people are being Americanized or Westernized, and it's not necessarily like forcing people to become less Americanized or Westernized. It's just a reaction, but I'm just explaining. Because if not, it would ironically open up the door to even more stereotypes. Like, for example, not all ethnic Chinese people observe Lunar New Year. Okay, some people call it like Luni-Solar New Year, but that's like too scientific for society. So let's just call it Lunar New Year because that's like what is generally accepted. Okay, but again, the truth is that not every ethnic Chinese celebrates it. Some Chinese Muslims do, some don't. It's like, just because you're ethnic Chinese, that doesn't necessarily mean you actually celebrate it. And if you come up with, like, if you make sweeping statements such as, oh, all Chinese celebrate it, as CNY or what, then, that's kind of like a stereotype as well, as much as people don't really want to admit it. Because keep in mind that people don't necessarily get ostracized because they are from a different race, different ethnicity, different creed, or whatever you call it. Sometimes this kind of discrimination can happen between like, oh, somebody who is like full ethnicity, half ethnicity, or it could also happen between American-born Chinese and a Chinese ethnic Chinese that's born in another country, or it could even happen with like, let's say, Singaporean Chinese ostracizing another Singaporean Chinese for not being Chinese enough. Like, it's not just like, the general racism that happens. Sometimes it could come within their own race as well, especially when people become too imposing and it's like they start to get mad when people don't live up to their standards or don't follow their traditions, cultures, and lifestyles. This is what often doesn't get talked about, but it could happen within the same like race or ethnicity as well. And to extend this discussion, it doesn't really help it that countries like Singapore, for example. Okay, in Malaysia, the system is kind of different, but I've never lived in Malaysia, so I'm not going to comment on that. People who have lived in Malaysia, please actually comment down below and tell us how your experiences are learning your quote-unquote mother tongue languages. I know Malay is the national language. They speak English as well, but it's like the national how do you say it? The national language and the one that's used for administration is in Bahasa Melayu, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me. But yeah, so basically in Singapore, right? It doesn't help that countries like Singapore they have this thing. So instead of like giving people the time or like at their own pace or giving people like their own space to discover their own heritage and hopefully get interested in it, Singapore does kind of have this like forced approach. And what I mean by that is that it's basically the non-English languages. Okay, to just give you guys the full picture, there is like Mandarin, even though how do you say it? In schools, they don't put Mandarin, they just put Chinese, if I'm not mistaken. Then there's Malay, Bahasa Melayu. And then there is Tamil as well. And not just that, people whose mother tongue, like let's say people of Indian ethnicity whose mother tongue is in Tamil, they do have this thing called the non-Tamil Indian languages. And they usually take that at other institutions, like other than their own school, if their school doesn't offer it. It could be like Hindi, Bengali, Urdu, Gujarati, Malayalam, I don't know how to pronounce that properly. Malayalam, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. Or Sinhalese, what else is there? Oh yes, I almost forgot, like Punjabi as well. It's like, I cannot really remember if every single one is offered, but I think the more commonly spoken ones would be non-Tamil Indian languages would be offered as well in those institutions. Like they are actual O-level/A-level subjects. And the thing is, you could also opt to take like German, Japanese, Korean. I'm not sure if there's Korean, but like I've heard of like German, Japanese, or even like, I don't know if there's French or Spanish or Arabic. I'm not sure what there is, but they do have the option to take these as like third languages. I'm not sure if it exists for like second languages, but third languages they do. And for the people that are not good at those languages, they would then be quote-unquote demoted to mother tongue B syllabus, B for basic. So it's like you have CLB, MLB, TLB, for example. And I'm pretty sure this B syllabus doesn't apply to like the non-Tamil Indian languages or the languages that aren't offered by the schools usually. I think this B syllabus is usually for like Mandarin, Chinese, Malay, Tamil. They just call it like MTB syllabus. In Singapore though, there is this thing called like exemption from mother tongue languages. I mean, I was one of those people who went through that. So you need to like declare that medically you have some sort of like learning disability or something like, OCD, or let's say you are on the spectrum, ASD, Asperger's, then yeah, you could have the option to get exempted, or you could get exempted if your family isn't of ethnic. I forgot the rules, but it's like if your family doesn't speak like the three main quote unquote mother tongue languages, like your family background, you could get exempted based on your family background. Like they just don't speak these languages. Like for example, a lot of like Filipinos living in Singapore, they do not take mother tongue. I'm not sure if O or A level actually offers Tagalog, but or even the other Philippine languages, but I think most of them they are not required to take it. Then there's the other one. What was it? Like, I'm sorry, I forgot if it was exemption based on the fact that their parents just, or their household, their guardians just don't speak those languages, or is it like an ethnicity-based exemption? Because it's like, I don't know if, let's say, an ethnic Chinese person would be exempted from taking Chinese for whatever valid reason if, let's say, their parents just don't come from any like Chinese speaking backgrounds. I don't know if I forgot the rules and regulations, how the legislation administration blah, 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 blah. I just don't know how the rules are like. But yeah, I mean, I have been through this before, and like I have heard of like cases of exemption due to like various different reasons, although I am really not sure what those reasons are. So yeah, there's that thing. However, there is some sort of like flexibility. So it's like you could be ethnic Chinese, but there is nothing stopping you from changing your quote unquote mother tongue language that you take in school to Malay or Tamil, vice versa. Malays could take Tamil or Chinese. Like, you know, people who have mixed ancestry, they do exist, but even if you're not mixed ancestry, there is really nothing stopping you. Like, you're Malay, you want to take Chinese, you want to take Tamil, it's fine. Or if you are Tamil but you take Malay, or if you are Tamil and you take Chinese, it's actually pretty common nowadays. Like, they speak Tamil at home, but then they learn Chinese in school. Like, it's like the common trend nowadays. And then for, let's say, if you're not Tamil by ethnicity, you're Indian but not Tamil by ethnicity, sometimes they take Tamil as well, or they take Chinese. And the thing is, people who actually could get exempted from this, like let's say if you're Filipino, or if you are you're like of any of the European ethnicities, or even if you come from the USA, regardless of your race, but you decide to take up the mother tongue languages in school, like instead of like doing the paperwork to exempt yourself, you actually choose to learn these languages in schools. And I believe that's what most the children of expats, EXPAT, expatriates, expats, I mean, sorry, that word is like a little that word is a mouthful to pronounce, but basically they actually get their kids to take the quote unquote mother tongue languages in school. There are also cases like this. So yeah, that's like every single nuance. But unless you are able to get exempted from it, if you are like, I think for the most part, right, if you are ethnic Chinese, ethnic Malay, ethnic Tamil, is it even correct to say ethnic Tamil, or should I say ethnic Indian, for example? If like you're ethnic, one of these, basically, I'm just saying it very generally, you are kind of like forced to take in school. So like Monday to Friday, and is it Monday to Friday? Yeah, okay, not really Monday to Friday, I forgot, but like at least like twice a week or something. I think once or twice, I forgot, but like you would kind of be forced to take this, which I feel it's gonna be a problem, and let me explain why. It goes back to the fact that people who are uninterested about these languages, it's not just about like forcing them to pick it up, but you actually force them to get a certain grade, otherwise they wouldn't be able to progress, that kind of thing. This system, I feel it's like really toxic and takes out all the fun in trying to learn and embrace cultures in general. Doesn't necessarily have to be your own predetermined culture. It could be other cultures as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, multi-ethnic, multicultural societies, yeah, they have their benefits, but sometimes when you don't do it well, these sorts of things could happen. And it's also the fact that like some people, even though they are clearly disinterested in these languages, they end up taking like higher Chinese language, higher Mandarin, higher Chinese language, higher Malay language, higher Tamil language. They hate the languages, but they only take this so that when they go on to junior college, when they go on to JC, or if they're from like IP stream or IB, I don't know, International Baccalaureate, I don't know how to pronounce that word, I'm sorry. They do this only for the sake of getting themselves exempted, and then after learning about it in school, like over time they kind of forget how to speak those languages, especially if their parents don't speak any of these languages at home. Like they just take it for the sake of exemption. So okay, the way it works is that like there is primary school for 6 years, there is secondary school for 4 years or 5 years if you are from normal academic stream. 4 years is for like normal technical and for express stream as well. I'm not sure if this will change in the future, but for now it's like this. And okay, let's say you are from Sec 5 NA or from Sec 4 express stream, and you take O levels, right? And then after O levels, there are different paths. So you could go on to JC, you could go on to polytechnics, you could go on to ITE, or you could go on to like private schools, or you could choose not to continue school because wait, actually I'm not sure, because what is actually compulsory? Is it 10 years or 12 years? I forgot the rules nowadays. But there are some people who basically drop out after O levels. Oh yeah, so it's like, yeah, or private institutions. But I'm not going to be talking about private institutions now. So if they want to go on to like junior colleges, right? For the people who unfortunately have to take the mother tongue languages, it's like a pass in their mother tongue languages. I think you have to get like, I really forgot. Is it like a C6? And then if you're taking mother tongue B syllabus, you have to pass it basically. If you fail it, then you cannot go to junior college, or I don't know how many schools allow you to be like, oh, if you failed mother tongue, then you could still go to JC, but they will demote you to like mother tongue B syllabus. I really forgot the rules and regulations, but and then JC, right, for university admission, again, for the people who are unable to be exempted from this, you have to get a minimum S grade. S is technically a fail, it's called subpass, but as long as you clear the mother tongue languages with a subpass, then you could go into university. If not, then the 6 local autonomous universities would reject you. But it's not the end of the world, because you could still go to like private universities if you have the money to do so. Again, I don't like the fact that Singapore is like constantly glazing and glorifying the 6 local autonomous universities. Like, just because they don't get into it, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a failure at life, right? Okay, but it's not really the right place to discuss about that. And the thing is that the 6 local autonomous universities, I also find it really bullshit that if you're born like the wrong gender, you get conscripted unless you get PES F. And then if your conduct grade is like not good, then the local autonomous universities would reject you. And you didn't even choose that. You're like conscripted. But then again, it's a local autonomous university, so it's a state university, so okay, I'm not gonna argue with that. Just go to private universities, honestly. There's not gonna be much discrimination, and if there's gonna be any discrimination, it's gonna be discrimination in the form of your wallet. Yeah. But yeah, it's basically like the only way to actually avoid taking mother tongue language. I'm not saying, oh, if you don't take mother tongue languages in school, you will not be fluent. No, you could still learn at your own pace. You could still learn in your own household. It's just that, you see, right, like, whether they take mother tongue in school isn't really a good indicator of their ability or their interest in the languages. Okay, technically one way to avoid it is you go the poly route or you go the IT route. Something like this. IT does have like a work study diploma, and then you could proceed to I don't know the current rules, but most people from IT, they proceed on to poly and then they go to uni. Although in rare cases, I think this is also possible. But yeah. So, okay. But since this is about like mother tongue languages, right? I don't think this course, or unless it's like a language related course, I don't think this or this would reject you if you fail your mother tongue or mother tongue B languages. So it's like, for people who pass mother tongue or mother tongue B in secondary school, they will take the same thing. Like they go to JC, right? They would take the exact same thing, or sometimes they could get like demoted, something like that. But if you have obtained, I'm not sure what's like the rule for schools in general, but if you take the higher mother tongue languages and you get like at least a D7, D7 is a fail, but as long as you get a D7 or higher, you would be granted exempt. I don't know if all schools enforce it like, sorry, I don't know if the rules in the different schools are like that, but if you obtain a D7, then you would not be required to sit for like, okay, higher mother tongue would exempt you from taking mother tongue in junior college, like altogether. And like, it's ironic, but some people take higher mother tongue so that they could just avoid taking mother tongue in JC altogether. Like they actually hate the language, but they take it so that because of the way Singapore's education system is being designed. But really, with this example, right, it's quite cruel. Like, you don't clear it, you don't get access to this. You don't clear it, you don't get access to this. And my problem with this kind of thing is this kind of approach to learning these my problem with this approach to learning the non-English languages in Singapore is that it's like you're studying these languages to get good grades, and you're not actually, I know that the schools, they do hold these like cultural events, which sometimes I feel honestly it's a waste of time, especially if people are like forced to attend, blah blah blah. I feel it should be voluntary. But it's like, it's like as if you're studying this language only to clear requirements, and not because you have an interest or you truly love the language and you wanna embrace like the tradition and culture. This is why ultimately I prefer if people are allowed to learn these languages like at their own pace, given their own space as well. Because you could probably ask any young Singaporean nowadays, they actually end up hating it and not actually, I mean, unless their household actually speaks it, they would end up hating it and they would end up forgetting what they've learned in school. It's just like how, you know, in American schools, if I'm not mistaken, most schools, they actually get you to take a language that's other than English. It's like they get you to take like what? You could choose between like Spanish, French, or like some other languages. But it's not really enforced in the same way as like to enforce to the point, oh, you need to get good grades in it. like in the same way as Singapore, but it's like the thing about getting people to take these non-English languages is that people tend to forget them after they graduate from school. Like they don't use it after all. So I'm like, what's the point of it? I mean, I get that it's good for exposure, but realistically, most of them, they just end up forgetting it. Because I'm just not a big fan of like this being imposed on every individual and just taken out of context. Yes, I have talked about like the benefits of like keeping culture and tradition alive, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like the stereotypical, oh, ancient culture. It could be modern day culture as well. Because culture is something, and traditions, it's something that like changes over time. So yeah. So again, going back to the part that I respectfully disagree with, yes, like all of these are like really valid reasons to learn more about traditions and culture, whether it's like quote unquote your own or other cultures. Like there are benefits. It's just that it's not good when you take it out of context. I'm not saying this comment is like taking it out of context, but it's like if you try to impose it on every single individual, then that's a bit too far, honestly. Especially with like globalization and everything, people get exposed to like a lot more cultures around the world, traditions, food as well. Cause culture, traditions, it's kind of like synonymous with food. They go hand in hand, is what I'm trying to say. But the main point is that it doesn't matter if it's your own, quote unquote, your own culture that is like being dictated by society, or if it's like, quote unquote, another culture. As long as you embrace either this, or even if you don't embrace them, you just want to live life as a good person, even if you are quote unquote uncultured, but you just, it's like, you know, you're respectful of people, you're respectful to other people, like you're more, even, okay, how do I put it? It's like, even if you are quote unquote devoid of culture, but you are morally a good person. Again, I do know that morals sometimes go hand in hand with tradition and culture as well, but I'm just saying in general, like modern day morals. It's good if you embrace this, it's good if you embrace this, or even, again, nobody should be forced to embrace any of this, but I mean, as long as people remain respectful to one another, I mean, it's like, and like I talked about, even if you're devoid of this, but you are good in terms of morals as a person, I don't think anybody should come up to you and say like, hey, why are you not preserving the traditions and cultures? Why are you like deviating from like, how do I say it? Why are you deviating from us? Like this kind of thing. I don't want any of this to like continue. Because this is the kind of toxicity that I have experienced growing up. It's like, you get what I mean. I've talked about this in previous videos before, but in a more recent video, but yeah. It's really not good if people are like forced to like upkeep it. Because ultimately this quote unquote identity or being incomplete, this is kind of like something that's like dictated by society, and you shouldn't allow these I feel that you as a person shouldn't be defined by whether you have quote unquote your own culture or whether you get assimilated into another culture. I feel like you shouldn't be defined as a person based on this, because it is really, really unfair. Because ultimately, like, being a certain race or an ethnicity doesn't mean you are obliged to like, you don't have the obligation, like, in reality, you don't have the obligation to like, I must live my life this way so that I quote unquote represent my people. again, right? It's more of like, it goes back to the whole quote unquote your own culture, or embracing and assimilating into another culture thingy. I've talked about this before, because ultimately I feel that, like, why are you straying away from the rest of us? This kind of like mindset is also a little bit toxic as well. So yeah, and again, just one last note. It also depends on like what country. What language the country mostly communicates with. It's like, what is your main language? If English is the main language, or if Korean or Japanese or Chinese like is the main language, then okay. Or if Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Indonesia, Tagalog or whatever is like the main language, then obviously people would, regardless of what race, ethnicity or identity you are, you would speak it. So this is more of like referring to the quote unquote mother tongue languages. It's more of like what other people in this video, like the comments in this video have explained. It really boils down to like whether there's like an actual need for it. Is there an actual need to connect with like and communicate with family or extended family, or is there a need to actually use it in daily life? It's like in the US, people speak English, and quite a handful of to different levels of fluency, quite a handful of people in the US also know at least some form of like Spanish. Not really like that they're fluent in it, but they know some form of like Spanish, demographics wise. And then other languages like, you know, French, German, it's like not as common, but they are present as well. But as long as like there isn't really a need to use them, then obviously people, even if they've learned in school, they would forget it, or they just wouldn't really see the importance of using it until like some of the comments they say, until I moved to the Philippines, I moved to Korea, and then I was like, okay, they kind of get forced to adapt because in Korea they speak Korean, in the Philippines they speak Tagalog or any other like local dialect as well. So they are kind of like, because there is like an actual necessity to use it in those contexts, that's why they actually end up developing the, even if it's like out of necessity, they kind of end up developing an interest, or like they just finally, quote unquote, finally see the need to learn or use these languages when communicating. So yeah, different place, different context, but this video is in the USA context, and I've also given you Singapore's like context as well. In Japan, right? Oh, everybody speaks Japanese. Yeah, no two ways about it. You want to live there, you gotta speak Japanese. You can speak other languages, that's fine, but you gotta know how to speak Japanese. Which is the main point, and what the comments are like trying to say. Because I really don't like it when people get too quote unquote, I have nothing against like woke people in general, but like if you go to the extremes and become so woke to the point whereby you start forcing people to, oh, you are this race, you are this ethnicity, you must upkeep the traditions, the language, the culture, the what. I hope nothing actually gets to that point, although by the way some people are talking, it feels like as if they want this to happen. So this is why sometimes I don't like it when people become too quote unquote woke. Because objectively speaking, I don't understand why in Singapore, even though demographics wise most people are ethnic Chinese, like when you're talking about like Singaporeans, not people who okay, usually when they talk about this, they're not talking about like the new citizens or anything, but they're talking, usually they have this term called like true blue Singaporeans, which I am not, obviously, just to put it out there in case people still get confused. But yeah, it's like objectively speaking, it's quite stupid to enforce that Singaporeans, regardless of like race or ethnicity, get good at Chinese because number one, Singapore's like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, national language is Malay, like the what you call it. Is it the pledge? Not the pledge. Fuck. The national anthem. Yeah, the national anthem is in Malay. Yeah. National anthem is in Malay. But the what do you call it? Lingua franca. The language that's being used in legislation, administration, and everything in daily life, it's English. Now, I do understand that Singlish is also a thing in Singapore. It's just that administrative wise and the way people communicate, normally it's in standard English. To be more specific, it's British English, which is not what I'm speaking right now. Because I was taught both. Like, my spoken English, it's closer to American English, but my written English, I write it in British English. So that's the thing about me. However, sometimes I mix and match. No, but it's like, if the main medium, if everybody speaks English, right? Okay, to be more accurate, not every single Singaporean knows how to speak English, especially like the older generation. I do understand. But like, like English is like the first, the quote unquote, like the first language of the country. So expecting like their own citizens to get good or understand Chinese, it's like Mandarin Chinese is like, it's quite unreasonable. I know right now, like, the country is trying to import more people from overseas because of falling birth rate and stuff like that. But again, even given that fact, it's still unreasonable to expect that people, instead of just knowing English, have to know Chinese as well. Especially given the fact that, like, you look at the street sign, the road signs, you look at everything, it's like, every single thing that's like written on paper, like everything, they have to put English, like it's the main language. Encouraging people to speak Mandarin Chinese, to speak Bahasa Melayu or Indonesia, okay, but in Singapore's context, it's Bahasa Melayu or Tamil, it's one thing, there's nothing wrong with it. But trying to, like, in this day and age, trying to enforce that everybody gets like good in a non-English language in the context of Singapore, or like expecting them to know, it's quite unreasonable. But I think this is what even fueled the whole I force ethnic Chinese people to take Mandarin Chinese in school. I think this is like the root cause of like why this forced people to take the quote-unquote mother tongue languages. It's even the thing in Singapore. Yeah, you guys gotta admit, this country is like under authoritarian rule. It's like a dictatorship in broad daylight, and because of that, right, yeah, some things they don't tell you outright, some things they tell you outright. But basically, they have their own motive. It's because, I want to foster like good business relations with like China or something, and because majority of the people living in Singapore they know how to speak Chinese, so therefore it will also be preferred, like it will also be encouraged if companies start stating their preference for Chinese speaking personnel as well. If you don't understand Chinese, we wouldn't employ you. I don't like the way that things are going on in this, like, I mean, I'm gonna return to Japan, I don't have to care anymore, but I do feel for my friends that unfortunately have no means to get out because citizenship wise they are Singaporean, and then it's not like they cannot just escape easily. So I really feel for the people that they get tied down by this whole, it's like, there is nothing wrong with a business having a preference for people who know how to communicate in a certain language. There's nothing wrong with it. But it becomes a problem when it's getting more and more and more and more and more prevalent in society where English is still the main language, and it's not like there's no real reason why you would enforce people to get good or understand Mandarin Chinese in this case. Because I feel like, even though I'm pretty confident that English would still remain as Singapore's main language, I don't think that will change. It's just that I'm quite worried about the trend. It's not like the government is like doing anything to stop it or what, but it's like, I'm quite worried that the trend is that more and more employers are seeking people who know a language other than English, even though it's technically not required for that job scope. It's like teaching people how to communicate in simple phrases. It's one in another language other than English, it's one thing, but to like actually enforce people to understand it and be fluent in it, it's quite fucked up, I feel. Because it's not like Japanese restaurants in Singapore, they actually expect the staff to be able to converse in Japanese, unless that place actually hosts like a lot of like actual native Japanese people. Because most staff, they're not fluent in it, and at most they could say arigatou gozaimasu or like irashaimase or stuff like that. It's just a very, very, very simple phrases, just a greetings. It's like, if you don't impose it in like those Japanese restaurants, and I don't really see any reason to impose it on a place where majority of the customers aren't even native Japanese speaking people in the first place. Yeah, in those cases, I don't see the need to enforce, but I am really quite fed up with like the prevalence in, I'm not talking about like Chinese restaurants, by the way. I'm talking about like workplaces, like in white collar places, like, or even like blue collar places that don't really deal with a lot of Chinese speaking people in the first place. I'm like, why is it even a requirement that people have to be fluent or understand Chinese in the first place when the job scope doesn't even require for it? Again, I'm saying this because it's not because this preference should not be a thing, the language speaking preference should not be a thing. I'm not saying that. They could do whatever they want technically, but when this thing starts to become more and more commonplace and it starts creeping in, and the local people get put out of jobs because of this very reason, I feel it's quite unfair. I repeat again, I have nothing against people who have a preference to hire people who know how to speak a certain language, but I am completely against the notion of the general society trying to make this commonplace, and the government isn't even doing anything to stop it, and instead they're actually fueling it. So I wouldn't even be surprised if next time Mandarin Chinese becomes like mandatory in Singapore schools. Doesn't matter like what race or ethnicity you are, like you're just required to take it. Yeah, I have nothing against the language or anything, don't get me wrong. It's just that this kind of like discriminatory hiring practice really needs to stop. If it's just for a few businesses, I can understand, because they want to maintain standards and they want to keep communication as smooth as possible, especially when like an ingredient is only available in a certain, it's more understood in Chinese than in like the English translation of it. That one, okay, I cannot argue against it. But when it starts to become more commonplace and it starts to creep into society like this is where like we draw the line. Especially if people are going to be put out of jobs or going to be denied of employment because of this. Because you know the white collar jobs in Singapore, right? I mean, for me, right, I don't mind either white or blue. Although sometimes I think I'll probably be happier doing a blue collar job because I don't need to use my brain power. It's just that like, wait, what was I trying to say? Okay, I feel that like white collar jobs, like their requirements for being employed, sometimes they're not transparent about it. But even if that's the case, sometimes even when they are transparent about it, it's like overly demanding, like it's quite fucked up. It's like, especially when it comes to like, oh, you need to be fluent in this language, even though technically it's just a preference and you really deal with a lot of Chinese speaking companies and customers in the first place. It's not any of that, it's just stupid. Then why is English the main language in Singapore in the first place? Have people forgotten about that? And I find it super ironic that like at one point in time the government tried to stamp out Singlish as per another comment, but then Singlish remains popular. And then it's like Singapore, like the government tried to eradicate the use of Chinese dialects and force people to speak only Mandarin Chinese. It's like they claim to like, oh, preserve traditions, culture, and heritage, when by doing so they are actually eradicating it in the process by discouraging people from speaking their dialects in the first place, because dialects are also part of like tradition, heritage, and culture as well. The different nuances. It's like they tried to eradicate the dialects in the past, or they realized they screwed up, and nowadays the dialects are like fading away, and they're like, oh guys, please try to communicate in more dialects. Then why did you try to force everybody to speak Mandarin Chinese in the first place? And it's not just limited to language. Singapore being hyper modernized, like Tokyo for example, they eradicate all the old buildings, the old places, the old buses, the old elevators, the old trains, and then when they get preserved, it's just a static display and it's not like a functional drivable bus. Do you say drivable or drivable? I'm sorry. But, you know, it's like, I find it ironic that Singapore is like trying to tell people to preserve their traditions, culture, and heritage, whilst they literally go around wiping out tradition, culture, and heritage that actually means a lot to people, and only keep the tradition, culture, and heritage that they perceive means a lot to people. Singapore's government, they pretend to care about these quote-unquote mother tongue languages, but in the end they try to make like the place they try to flood the place with like really tall apartments, skyscrapers, and wiping out every single classic historical building. Doesn't necessarily have to be like of Chinese, Indian, Malay heritage, but even like Eastern European, Western European design, they wipe them out just to replace them with generic apartments and skyscrapers. But to be honest, I still think it's because Singapore has like diplomatic relations with China and they want everybody to speak good Chinese. I think that's their real intent anyway. And anything that comes along with it seems superficial. And I think even without the government's like quote-unquote help and interference, I think actual ethnic Malays and Indians, they preserve their own culture better than how the government tries to help in preserving them. So that is the end of my my take on this comment with a balanced viewpoint, like the parts that the trends that are correct and the parts that I disagree with. I've unpacked this entire comment. I've given you all the possible nuances that I could give. I'm sorry if I missed out any, or if there are any inaccuracies in my own speech. Again, this is all unscripted as usual. I don't script my videos because I want it to be more genuine. I want it to be like I think of something and then I say it out without any filter kind of thing. And I correct myself if necessary. Okay, but before people try to accuse me of being a hypocrite, let me just extend this discussion to this. I often talk about this, right? Preserving bus history. It's not that you have to, but I'm just saying all the benefits of doing so. Like, it's how, like, the more you know about your bus route history, the more you're able to learn about why a certain bus route is routed in a certain manner, right? But there are enthusiasts who they just want everything new and they don't care about anything that's old. Nobody's gonna force them, but again, it kind of becomes a problem. I think it's similar to this, right? Like to this part, right? It's kind of similar to the last part, which is like, realistically, I'm not expecting everybody to like it. It's okay if you don't, or if you're disinterested in it. I'm not expecting people to memorize the old bus routes. But it becomes a problem when people try to deny the existence of these old bus routes. You know, like I've talked about in the other video. And again, it's not like, oh, everybody has to do it, but it becomes a problem when most of the community is like, all they do is like worship electric buses and don't even give a crap about the diesel buses like Volvo B9TL Ride, Scania K23OUB, Mercedes-Benz OC500LE, MAN A24, MAN NG363F A24, MAN NL323F A22, and the Mercedes-Benz Citaro. It's like they don't give a crap about these models and all they do is foam to electric buses. Yeah. So there are parallels with this as well. But the key difference is that you can choose to be a bus enthusiast. Things like your race or ethnicity or stuff like this, like genetics, you cannot choose it, you cannot alter it. But you have a choice to become a bus enthusiast or not. And when we are speaking about the lack of preservation of bus history and how people are like so nonchalant about it, it's more of, again, it's the same thing. It's a reaction to an unfavorable trend. Now, again, it's subjective, but generally, I would say whatever this person mentioned in the top part of this comment, it's also kind of applicable to this as well. It's just a reaction from myself, a reaction from the 90s or early 2000s bus enthusiasts who are speaking out against an unfavorable trend of people worshipping electric buses and completely neglecting bus history. The only difference between this and this, like I've said, is that you cannot choose how you are born, but this one, you can choose to be a bus enthusiast. And again, like I've said in this part, it's not like we're enforcing everybody to like diesel buses. You can have valid reasons to not like them. Or maybe you are just one of the rare electric bus enthusiasts. Yes, they do exist, even though they are the minority, thankfully. But again, it's more of like, we're not expecting everybody to get into this per se, but we're just speaking out against this trend whilst being mindful of like the fact that not everybody might be interested in this. So it's important to note that this is just speaking out. It's not enforcing or imposing people to memorize the old bus routes to make things clear. Again, I do appreciate the fact that these people are able to give like in-depth, either their own opinion or just objective arguments, like either subjective or objective, it doesn't matter, but they are able to give in-depth like analysis or like what was I gonna say? They're able to like unpack most, or at least all, or at least most of the nuances, and I just help to like fill in the gaps, or if there are any disagreements, I will objectively or subjectively state why. I appreciate like these kinds of like discussions. Something which I suspect the reason why Singaporeans in general are not good at general paper is that it's not about how much of your content lecture notes you memorize or anything. It's how you unpack every single one of these nuances. You give both sides of the story. You tell people like, oh, this is good because this is bad because this. You could also point out the irony in some of these arguments that in which these concepts or what they happen to overlap or clash with one another. It's, yeah, the different subtleties basically. But because Singaporeans are their education system is like, even though they have general paper, right, which is like an essay and then a comprehension passage with like an application question at the end, which allows you to have your own voice, sort of. The reason why people are not good at GP, like most of them, I would say, is it's the fact that the education system trains Singaporeans to not question anything and just accept things as they are, as opposed to being curious, or questioning the way, like why things are like this. It's like, and then it also encourages a lot of like spoon feeding as opposed to like really critically thinking about issues and the different nuances within each issue per se, which then leads to like stereotypes or generalizations that most Singaporeans don't know how to think for themselves, and they just accept everything blindly, like what's given to them. They just say this good, this bad, without actually trying to rationalize it on why is it good or why is it bad. Doesn't help, because it's like in countries whereby the government is like a dictatorship, this kind of like mindset is like very, very prevalent, which is also seen in like, you know how people say there are like PAPIBs, right? Those people are the ones that whatever the government says, they're just going to get spoon feed that. All they do is they take the government's opinions and parrot it. They paraphrase it. That at most they paraphrase it, and they just like, it's basically just like a yes man. Like Singapore's education system kind of like innately trains people to become yes men, even though they are disguising it as like, oh, we have general paper in JC, but not everybody goes to JC and not everybody like does well in it, that kind of thing. I mean, because of like this kind of like spoon feeding, and they just accept whatever's given to them without really actually thinking, without like being creative, having your own voice, individualism, blah 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 blah, right? You see, I don't understand why people say Singapore has more individualism as compared to Japan, that, you know, or Korea that prides themselves in collectivism. Whilst that's not wrong, I feel like even Korea, maybe I shouldn't say Korea because I shouldn't comment about Korean society because they are still very, very collectivist in general. It's like, you know, it's like people in Singapore, they tend to comment like this, but I find that nowadays, even Japanese people, they have more individualism as compared to like Singaporeans. And it's not to say Singaporeans aren't talented or what, it's like they do have talent, but they aren't even given enough space to express said talents. And it's like people claim that Japan is more collectivist than Singapore, when I think in reality it's actually the opposite based on my own experiences. So yeah. I mean, it's like when your country is like run by a dictatorship, it's not surprising that like their own citizens usually wouldn't be able to think for themselves, and anything the higher ups say, I'm just gonna accept it as it is because they have our best interests and best intentions at heart, because they are too sheltered. Their lives are like way too sheltered, and yeah, it's like when they're rich and they've already achieved everything in life, they start to become nonchalant about every single issue that like the common people that are facing. It's like, you get what I mean. It's like everything that I've talked about in this video, it's innately a problem in collectivist societies. And whilst America does have its own individualism, sometimes I do feel that at least it gives off this feeling like, I'm not talking about like, the extreme far right people, like even amongst like woke people, they want people to subscribe to their ideology whilst painting it as like, oh, we are free and we are liberal, but they just want people to subscribe to their ideology. It's like, sometimes I do feel that to a certain extent, even woke people are like becoming the thing that they are that they are actively going against. It's like the woke people, they talk about individualism so much, but then they start to talk about all these things that do have some degree of collectivism in nature, in the sense that, oh, you are of this ethnicity or race, you have to subscribe to what I am trying to encourage you to do so. So even this, in some sense, is a form of collectivism, and nobody could deny that. Like, it has its benefits, it has its own drawbacks, but even very subtly, even though people don't really say it out, this kind of like a shared culture thingy, whether it's like ancient or modern culture, this is in a way a form of like collectivism as well. It's like, it can go both ways, because whilst you're trying to get people not to become more westernized or Americanized, and like everybody just becoming the same boring person, quote unquote uncultured, right? It's like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you are trying to get people to stray away from this kind of collectivism, branding that fact as individualism, and trying to get people to accept this kind of collectivism just because it's not westernized. But this, I'm just going to label it as C and C. This is collectivism. This is also another form of collectivism. It's just that the individualism aspect of this kind of collectivism it lies more in diversity, in the sense that like, I'm just saying things very loosely, but the degree of individualism in this kind of collectivism is more of like, everybody has their unique racial, ethnical identity and their own culture, and we want to embrace and celebrate all of it. You deserve to stand up for what kind of person you are. So the more you think about it, the more it isn't just like flat out individualism or collectivism. It's actually a spectrum. Like, there's like I and C. Even with a supposedly on the surface simple issue such as this, which on the surface it seems to pride itself on individualism, right? But because it's like, oh, you belong to a certain race or ethnicity, right? There is also some degree of like collectivism in it. It's just how you perceive it and how you see it. You get what I mean? How you view it, but you get what I mean? And this is something that like I didn't really think about. Only when I'm actually speaking, then I start suddenly thinking about this. Like right now, it just came to my mind. So I was like, oh, it's actually a spectrum. Nice. Even going back to this, there is also some form of individualism and collectivism. In the Singapore context, unfortunately, most of the bus enthusiasts in Singapore, they are leaning towards this. And I feel there needs to be a bigger push to make people's content stand out. Not forcing, but it'll be good if more people start making their unique content as opposed to like subscribing to the idea that every single bus video has to be just a joyride, a POV, or a music video, and every video has to be cinematic as opposed to like a certain way, a certain other way. Yeah, it's like, you see, the thing is that even as a relatively marginalized group, like bus enthusiasts in general, even as a marginalized group, they are more marginalized as compared to train enthusiasts. But despite being marginalized in the same way as like how non-westernized or non-Americanized people get marginalized in this society, in this context, in Singapore context, right, it's like bus enthusiasts get marginalized by general society, but bus enthusiasts themselves marginalize people within their own community that do not fit into the mold that they have set out for their community, in which every single video format must be like that. You have to clickbait, rare, cameo, kick down, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So see, even for supposedly a trivial or simple issue, it actually applies to this as well, and there are many nuances. Because really, you look at the content that like the bus enthusiasts, those that are aged between like 13, not everybody, but like 13 to like early 20s, you look at the content they're putting out, it's like very few people actually stand out, and it seems more like as a collectivist thing. You know, it's like, hello, my name is this or that, and this is my channel. I run a sorry, what's the typical hello, my name is this or that, this is my channel, I post buses, trains, and other stuff. I will be uploading this day or that day. It's like, when you read their descriptions, or even if they add like, oh, this date, how many subscribers achieved, or blah blah blah, I don't know why people do that, honestly. I think that one's dumb, like, personally. But okay, you know what, it's your own channel, you could do whatever you want with it. It's like nani nani hizuke, 何人の登録者数突破おめでとうございます you know that kind of thing, just that you translate it into English. I don't know where this trend actually came from, but okay. I think it's just like to show how fast people grow, whatever. But it's like, when you look at their channel, their content, their descriptions, and how they carry themselves online, they don't stand out. And I'm not saying this like because it's not a good thing that they don't stand out or anything, but I'm just saying, objectively, they don't stand out and they look very typical. And the more typical people appear as, the more collectivist they get driven into. Like they get pushed towards like this end of the spectrum. And increasingly, a lot of the younger bus enthusiasts, they are being constantly pushed towards like the collectivist spectrum. Collectivists. Oh my god, why does this fall into play? There is a certain extremist group with that name, right? Right? They get pushed into this. The thing is, even groups can be individualistic as well, but it's like, the more you think about it, the more you realize that Singapore bus enthusiasts, or even train enthusiasts, right? They really fall under the collectivist side of things, and only a small few group of people actually break into like this side of things. Like, especially if you have content that many other people don't have, or you're trying to make your own spin on things, you have a very clear identity it's not related to how many like subscribers you have or what. I don't care about that, but it's more of like how people know instantly it's you. Individualism, as opposed to like you being buried under this. Oh my god, 1 hour 30 minutes. I think I think this could be turned into like some form of like scholarly article, but I don't like to write articles, so somebody please do it for me. Bye.